Good evening and welcome to the Untold. Of course, this is the show where we have brilliant people talking about their brilliant journeys. But first, I'm your host, Abdullah AlHendyani.
And I'm your host, Lujain AlAtheri. And today we're joined by Mohammad Safawi, who's a triathlete, content creator, and public speaker, which is quite an impressive number of things to have under one's belt.
It is, honestly, and no matter how many times I'll tell the producers, don't bring athletes into the show because they always make me feel bad about myself and my own.
Yeah, they make us look very bad.
Yeah, nevertheless, it's always a great time to sit down with them, especially someone who's into triathlons, right? It's such a demanding kind of activity. So it's going to be a great time to sit down with him and talk to him all about his journey, how he got into this, how he's feeling, and what keeps him motivated into all of this.
I agree. It's a very extreme discipline to kind of go into, and he cycles, he runs, and he swims. And to master all three at the same time is something I don't think I could do. So I'm very curious to see how he overcomes it both physically and mentally.
Well, we're all curious. Hopefully, the audience are curious. We are going to take a break. And after the break, we're going to come down and sit with him. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, on our conversation segment in The Untold with our guest, Mohammad Safawi. Welcome for being our guest here on The Untold.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. How have you been?
Good, and you guys?
All good. So, you're a triathlete, which is really impressive, by the way. Before we get into it, could you explain to our audience what a triathlete is?
Well, a triathlete is someone who practices three disciplines back to back: swimming, cycling, and road running. And they try to manage load, fatigue, and mindset over long distances under these three disciplines. Well, and basically they try to center their whole life around that sport. Yeah, it's a struggle, but it's juggling all these three in between.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, no, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who associates running with swimming as the time I take to go and get me my slice of pizza, that's the only kind of activity I
That's
do.
the motivation.
It is.
It works.
And,
It gives you a reason, by the way.
It is, yeah.
Practice
True,
more sports
very
because you
true.
burn that slot of energy and you have more space to
Yeah, you have
eat
more
whatever you
carbs.
want. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, speaking of motivation, what got you into triathlon, right? To be a triathlete?
Well, it's definitely the feeling of growth and the drive for challenge. But now, as I look back at the whole thing years back, I see how each phase and act played into shaping the story. It's a long story, but an interesting one, so I'll share the highlights. So it started in 2018, actually. And I didn't come from a sports background, honestly. My first sport was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is when I started sports. Now, at the time, I used to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on and off because I used to study and work at the same time. In between the classes, I used to run. So I used to run, and in parallel, I was listening to a podcast by the host, Brian Rose, who happens to be a mentor of mine as well. I used to be influenced by that podcast that I remember in the year 2019, he created a movie documentary about the Iron Man experience of his. It's called The Iron Mind. And I remember when I watched that movie, maybe partially because I was also connected to the show, so it impacted me, it influenced me. And another part of it is because I was struggling at that period of time, going through my own personal experience, my own journey. So upon watching the movie, it was basically sold in a narrative about overcoming obstacles and personal challenges. So I still remember the feeling. It sent chills through my spines, and I kept it in my head. It was something that I want to do one day. So I started looking up the sport Ironman, which is a form of triathlon. It's one of the distances, long form distances. And I remember a few years later, I had a moment of reflection upon my father passing away. And I was like, okay, I need to get my act around the things that I want to do in my life. And I couldn't help but having the Ironman being on top of that list. So I had same questions as the 2 years, 3 years before. Like, where do I need to start from? I don't know what to do, actually. I don't have any friends who practice that. I told myself a very simple and straight sentence: go figure. As rigid as that, seriously. And crazy how it works, but once you make the decision, any decision in your life about shifting your life from a field to another, from a state to another state, life starts putting you in situations where you start meeting people doing that thing. So it was the year 2022 when I've done my first duathlon. It's another variation of the sport, aquathlon. And then I've done my first triathlon. And I started meeting triathletes. And I remember I met a friend who had a couple of Ironman races under the belt. And we were running together, and he was speaking to another one. So he was talking about his journey and experience. And I listened to the word Ironman. And I looked at him and I was like, you seriously have done that? And he was like, yeah, I've done 5.
Wow.
Yeah. And I waited till we finished the run, and I asked him to coach me, actually. And he said yes. And the journey started from there.
That's honestly quite an epic journey. Almost.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago. I still can't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like time always passes so fast. And I love how you said it just took for you to just decide in your mind.
Yeah.
Like, go figure.
Yeah.
And then everything started to unfold
Exactly.
for you. And
Exactly.
it's like, that's kind of how, it's like the secret to life most people don't realize almost. Just decide to do it and things will happen if it's meant to be, you know? So I think that's really cool. Do you remember what your first triathlon was like though? How did it feel?
Yeah. Now, luckily, I've had the aquathlon and duathlon experiences leading up to the triathlon. So I've already had that transition between the sports exposure. Psychologically, it matters a lot. And we'll talk about the mental and physical preparation later on. But still, because I've had a big lead time between the decision and doing the race, it was few years. Leading up to the race and arriving to the start point, it was so much emotion inside of me. It was like, I'm boiling, I want to do it. So yeah, I can tell you there was so much anxiety, so much energy, excitement. But the beauty of it also, I was surrounded by lots of friends who made the decision to make it.
Yeah.
So we were, all of us, in that same bubble together. There were nerves, but you reached to a point where, yeah, I mean, it's the nerves, it's part of it, right?
Yeah.
And the most nerve-wracking moment is when you start and you kickstart the swim. Then it becomes a matter of just going with the flow. And you see people around you doing the same thing. They are rushing out of the water, transitioning to the bike, then transitioning to the run, and just a beautiful experience.
It is. And you know, so many people talk about these endurance kind of tests that they say it's not a physical, kind of, testing ground, but it's more of a mental testing ground because your body knows it can do it. Now it's whether your mind can go forth or quit. But I do want to ask you about something out of personal curiosity, because you said there was a duathlon and quadathlon before you got into a triathlon. What are those? Because
Yeah.
I'm a little bit...
So they fall under the same genre, endurance sports, multidiscipline endurance sports. A duathlon is a two-discipline sports where you start cycling, then you start running, then you cycle back.
Oh, okay.
And there are like different distances based on the category. Aquathlon, on the other hand, it's swimming, running, then swimming again.
Oh, okay.
So I've had done a few of these before the triathlon period, which were part of the preparation, honestly. Now, they didn't fit physically into the plan, but they all played into that psychological exposure.
Yeah, I think that's really important because to just start straight off with a triathlon could be quite intimidating, I can assume, because it's so many different disciplines.
So much
So to kind of start with like, I'm going to start with 2 and then this, and then see that you can do it, and then
100%.
you go ahead and persevere and do the rest.
100%.
Was there any discipline that you found the hardest between swimming, cycling, or running?
Yeah, in that sport, in general, it's the swim because it's technical. It's based on technique and not fitness alone. You can be strong and fit, but you will wobble in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's unlike running and cycling where it's about building fitness, endurance, and it's a linear growth if you commit and you're consistent. In swimming, you might be consistent for a long period of time, and the growth will not be linear. It will upset you, it will overwhelm you, but then suddenly growth happens.
Yeah.
It's unpredictable. And I've thought about that for a long time, and I researched that, and big part of it is because water is not our natural habitat.
True.
Yeah, unlike running, for example. If you don't run, well, you walk. So
Yeah.
your body is expecting these type of motions. Your joints are fixed to this type of sport.
Yeah.
Okay. The same goes for cycling. It's a push and pull mechanism. So it's about your lungs capacity and heart adaptation. Swimming is unlike that. So it's often the hardest part of the sport. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, the water plays a much more bigger role in resistance than
Yeah.
air is. I do want to ask you because we've gone through which of these sports was the most difficult, but also when it comes to physical and mental, which is the most difficult to overcome? You know, you're having obstacles, whether it's physical or mental obstacles.
Yeah.
Which one are easier to get over?
Both are hard because the mind is the body and the body is the mind. It's part of the same mechanism. But if I would choose one, I would say definitely it's the mental part, because preparing for the race throughout the training plan, on daily basis, you will negotiate with yourself. Do I want to do that? Yeah. Why am I doing it? I'm bored. I have anxiety. I want to meet my friends. I want to have some social time. And when you do that sport, there's no social time. Okay. I don't want to share that, but you'll get to know when you practice it. Yeah. So it's a very strict commitment. So it's definitely the mental part. And during the race, if you get to the race point actually, and you've gone through your training plan physically, 100% you're ready. It becomes the way you manage your mental dialogue. So yeah.
So what do you do in moments where you feel like things become too much or you want to stop? How do you motivate yourself?
Okay, there are two things that I do. One of them, let's say in the short term, during the exercises, is if I'm feeling lazy or I'm feeling I'm lacking energy, I just tell myself, don't look at the whole thing. Take it step by step, okay? Go one more. If you finish, let's say you have a list of exercises to do, don't look at the whole thing, one by one, and you finished one, go to the next one, go to the next one. That gets me by sometimes. But in general, I remind myself of why I started, why I decided to do that race, for example. And I'm a big fan of attaching a certain emotion to each race that you do.
Interesting.
Yeah, so one of them might be because you want to upgrade your identity. You want to challenge yourself. You want to see what you are capable of. Okay, you want to see where you stand in terms of your own vision and perspective. Okay, one of them maybe you want to expand your social circle and connect with people and support others. So during such moments, lean to such feelings. These are the reminders. Now, I've also realized throughout the years, which I think it's part of maturity also, your maturity in sports. I didn't used to have that.
I think none of us did in the beginning.
Yeah. I think it's this year because I've taken a short break from the sport. I'm doing another approach to the training. We can talk about that later on. Just put things in their right perspective. Look at the bigger picture. If today you miss a session, then so what? That's fine. Don't go intense all the time. Intensity serves a purpose, but also space and gaps serve another purpose. This is when growth happens and takes place. So yeah, give things their due weight and look at things from the bigger perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a great message to, stick on before we go on a break, is that to, realize your mission is and just focus on it. Don't look beyond it. With that being said, we are going to take a very quick break, so stay tuned.
Okay, that was good.
And we're back from that short break. So we were just talking about, your experience with triathlon training and how the mental part is a big part of it. Yeah. How overcoming the mental challenges, just deciding to do it. And I loved what you were saying about try to break it down and how consistency is key. Yeah. I think a lot of people overcomplicate things. Sometimes we really think, oh no, if I don't do this every single day, or if I don't do this all the time, or if I don't achieve this goal by this time, I'm done. But that doesn't work if you want to be successful.
I speak about this because I do this.
Yeah.
I felt this multiple times. I remember in one of the races, my coach told me, he gave me a call and he told me, listen to the plan because you tend to overdo things. Trust the structure. Trust your coach. I still remember this advice to this day because it matters to other areas in life, by the way. We're always rushing things, right?
Yeah, I'm that kind of person too, so I understand.
Yeah. So what helps is really trusting the structure. And this is something I tell people who are who have just recently joined running and the sport. They are rushing. They are excited to break their numbers, to improve their performances, which is all the good. It's passion, it's energy, it's the drive for growth. And this is what gets you long-term to achieve. but there's a very thin line between achievement and sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah. To sustain, to keep yourself injury free, trust the structure, trust the coach, trust the plan.
Yeah, and speaking about trusting the plan, when it comes to your own plan, you're now taking a race that is really hard. It's going to test all of your mental and physical abilities. How do you stay motivated even though sometimes you're feeling really down? How do you keep yourself pushing beyond what is the limit? Is it focusing on the plan, focusing on the glory afterwards, focusing on the feeling itself? What goes through your head to find that motivation?
Look, I'll say something. If you love what you do, it will always be easy to connect the activities because they become part of your identity and part of what you do on a daily basis. You reach to a point where if you don't do them, you feel there's something missing. And you have to do them to feel good.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one part. Another part is, again, what we talked about, reminding yourself of the emotional reason, the emotional punchline that pull you to that thing that you're doing. And the third pillar is, again, be mature about it. If, let's say, I'm training for a race under a training plan that goes 8 to 9 months, then definitely I have to allow myself the room that there might be every 10 to 14 days, days of boredom and days where I feel down and I don't want to do it. Okay. So don't be very tough on yourself during those moments. Push yourself to show up. You might, if you don't get 100% of the session, you might get 80% of the session. Well, what happened? At least you got the session done, right? And it's not 100% of the plan that gets you to the start and finishing line. It's 70 to 80% of the plan, actually. Yeah. So enjoy it. Have fun doing it, because no one is getting out of it alive, so you just might as well enjoy it, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
You
you're
gotta
spending
live
so
your
much
life.
time in it. Yeah. I never used to say these things, by the way.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I just happen to say them right now.
I feel like I can relate because growing up, I had a big perfectionist mindset. If I didn't do anything perfectly, I wouldn't do it. And it did take getting older, getting more mature to realize that's not the way to be.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to accomplish anything that way. Or if you do, you're going to cause a lot of harm to yourself, kind of mentally and emotionally, because you're setting yourself to a standard that can't exist, because no one is perfect. 100%. You're going to make mistakes. There are going to be good days, bad days. Some days you're going to exceed your expectations. Some days you're not going to do as well. That's fine. Leave it for another day. But it takes a lot of growth, like you said, to kind of get to that place.
100%.
So do you feel that your endurance training has kind of helped you with your life outside of sports as well?
Absolutely. It taught me self-control. It got me to practice self-control, not just to learn it by theory. It helped me become more structured. And it matters in other areas in your life, because endurance is all about pushing for the next thing, for the next step, maintaining fatigue under a long period of time, and making decisions under that feel of fatigue. So when you go through similar things in your life, be it at work, completing tasks, aiming for something, for a goal, having conversations with people, you always have that feeling that, okay, I've done that hard rep somewhere. It exists in the back end of your head, so I can push more. I can push for another one. So definitely it matters. It teaches you discipline, it teaches you patience, and it humbles you as a result.
Yeah, honestly, tackling these kind of difficult sports always bleed into your personal life, whether it affects you in the way you approach people, how you behave. So it's always great to see people go out there. But also when it comes to your social media presence, you are, I wouldn't say guilty of, but you are very famous for journaling and taking, your daily routines into effect and telling people about it. So how does all of that come into, the role that you have in terms of, I wouldn't say influencing people, but addressing people?
Journaling and reflection for me is like the checkpoints in my life. It is the period of time where I get to pause, reflect, and see my thoughts and observe my feelings. And without such an experience, I always tell people, without such an experience, you will never really retain experiences and knowledge in general. So it is how I learn, actually. It is how I learn. And it's part of building your awareness as well, because life happens so fast and there are lots of distractions around you. Everything around you is trying to pull you to its own direction, right? Unless you pause, unless you have that time with your own self, your thoughts, observe your feelings. What are you about? How else will you learn, right?
I actually agree with you because I love to journal myself. And I find that if I go through like a week or something and I don't journal, it's caused a lot of mental clutter in my brain, a lot of emotional kind of buildup. But whenever I journal, it really helps like just let everything out. And then I can kind of really have clarity of thoughts in mind. And I can see things in a way that I wouldn't have seen if I hadn't done it. So
100%.
I think we can encourage most people to start journaling if they haven't.
Yeah.
And I also heard that you are also interested in recreational reading. So does that also help you with your self-improvement or kind of pausing in life?
Yes, reading is, I take it as the input form of building your knowledge. You don't build skills when you read, you build knowledge, and it gives you perspective into things.
Yeah, I love reading too.
Yeah, I remember someone told me before, like when you read a book, actually the author is allowing you to their own word and own mind. Yeah. But again, we go back to the main point of reflection and journaling. I make sure that after reading, you have to reflect. What did you read? How are you planning to apply it in your life? What did you learn as a result? How does it fit into your life? Because anyone can read, right? It's just information. You're getting it in, yeah? But how do you blend it in your life? That's the practice of reflection.
So has journaling something you picked up, recently, or have you always, since you were young, you were into, taking journals of your daily life and your daily thoughts?
Yeah, it started years back. Out of the intention of I want to record to see later on what's gonna happen. Yeah, it's a way of like communicating with your future self. This is how it started, and then I started feeling that it's becoming a sanctuary for me. It's a place where I meet myself. I observe my emotions. If I'm feeling overwhelmed or anxious or depressed, I dump things out, and I revisit them later. Yeah, and the amazing thing is that it gets you to detach and not rush your decisions, because it builds your awareness, and it shows you that when you're making decisions out of emotions, you're inside that bubble. When you put them out and you come, let's say 24 hours later, you say, oh, gladly I didn't make a decision because I see that was biased. Right?
No, that's what they always say, kind of like sleep on it sometimes, take a break, step back, because if we just react out of emotion, you can easily cause regrets that way. You
100%.
can do so many things that you may not mean to, or like once the anger has gone away or the happiness, like, oh, I didn't actually want to do that.
Yeah.
So it does help to journal, to reflect, to pause. I do want to ask you though, like, how do you manage to stay balanced with all of these different, things like the triathlon, the journaling, the reading, without getting burned out? Because we live in a world where there are so many distractions and so many things kind of pulling our attention. So how do you manage to not get burned out?
Well, I believe it's the counter thing. If you don't do such things, you will experience burnout, depression, and anxiety more.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you realize that once you get in these habits. Because again, what's reflection? What's journaling? It's putting things out, right? What is sport and movement? I mean, disregard triathlon. I don't want to go that intense. What is sports in general? Movement. It's physical activity. It's a flow of energy, right? So you are regulating your energy on a regular basis. Reflection. It's pausing, putting a barrier from the external distractions and having some time with yourself. So I believe when you embed such things in your life, you become more aware, you become more regulated, and a better person as a result. So if you do them, it will become even harder to live without them. Yeah.
And also, because we are kind of reaching the tail end of the conversation, I want to go into your role into public speaking.
Yeah.
Because, I do want to ask you about what kind of message you'd like people to know about, I wouldn't say from your triathlete, journey so far, but from your entire journey. You said you were into jiu-jitsu, from your reading, journaling, like everything that you picked up across life. What is the message you want to get out there as you roll into public speaking?
Build a better version of yourself and share it with people. Talk about your passions. You will be amazed how people will connect with you. We often get stuck in our heads, just thinking about our own daily stuff. If you love something, if you're passionate about something, speak about it, share it. Public speaking is a platform actually to make you aware about certain weaknesses that you have in your speaking skills, or to reassure you and validate your message. Because if you're really passionate about your message, people will assure you. They will tell you, okay, this is your lane of expertise. So try public speaking. It is a nerve-wracking experience, I know, but such everything in life that will grow you. right? And I can mirror both sports and public speaking together. I actually made one day a speech about public speaking, saying it's a sport. It's a sport of the mind, and it's
That's
always
cool.
the first 5 to 7 minutes where you feel the anxiety is ramping up. Then it just vanishes, right? Just like the sports. When you run, you need to warm up. And it's always the first few kilometers that are intimidating. Then you go with the flow. And the same goes for cycling. And the same goes for swimming. I mean, isn't it amazing that these things, they all teach us the same lessons?
It is kind of in different ways. Things mirror each other. They relate to each other. They reflect each other. And as you said, it's the idea that doing things is actually more beneficial to you than kind of just sitting and doing nothing, right?
Exactly.
If you just let your mind sit and marinate in just, what's happening in the world or just do nothingness, it doesn't go anywhere. That energy doesn't get spent.
Yeah.
So even if you're doing it in a physical or mental way, just getting that energy out really makes a big difference.
100%. And that's the trap.
Yeah. But with public speaking, I do want to ask you, what made you get into that? Because it's a bit different than the other stuff you're doing.
Yeah, it was actually a mentorship program that I was taking a part in from the podcast that I talked about. And they had a challenge of vlogging on social media for consistent 30 days. So we didn't have any choice but to get the camera really and record and publish on Instagram and send the links on the group. And people have to view your videos and they have to give you real-time feedback. And then I thought I grew so much of doing that activity, just the fact that you get yourself out there, that ice that you break in the first time is an experience by itself.
Yeah.
So I've sensed the benefit and I wanted to sustain that and expand on that. So I thought about public speaking, and I've been a fan of TED Talks as well. So I thought that would be a platform for me to experiment, test my ideas, and see what real-time feedback I get from the audience.
It is. And I do want to thank you for having a platform, but also dedicating your platform to helping people, I would say, not only, like you said, when it comes to their physical abilities in terms of making them aware about what triathlons are, but also when it comes to mental capacities, speaking about, also educating them about and talking openly, even this episode you discussed depression, all of that. So I do want to thank you for, dedicating your platform to a lot of great topics, and also for being here and joining us on today's episode of The Untold. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. What a pleasure.
No, it was a pleasure to have you too. I feel like this was a great convo. Maybe we'll have you again one day, talk about more stuff.
My pleasure.
With that, we are going to go on a very quick break. And that was all for today's episode. And honestly, Abdullah, I loved speaking to Mohammad. He had so much amazing energy. You can tell that he's a public speaker. He knows what he wants. He knows how to say it. And the way that he described just kind of finding the momentum to do what he wants to do, the maturity and the grace to learn from his own mistakes and kind of go forth and conquer all the things he wants, it's really inspiring.
Yeah, honestly, Lujain, our producers, Allah Yahfadhum, they've made their research, and we have a whole list of questions about a lot of activities he's part of. We haven't gone into half of them, right? He's been into all sorts of fields. He's been into all sorts of activities. He even has a career in jiu-jitsu. We haven't gone into a lot of those. A man of so many accomplishments. It was great talking to him.
It really was. And being able to see how he overcame not just the physical aspects, but the mental challenges, the endurance, how it reflects in other parts of his life. The fact that he takes time to journal and reflect as well. He really shows that it's all about growth. It's all about just kind of challenging yourself and doing what's best for you, no matter what other people say. And I hope a lot of people learned from what he had to say today.
Yeah, honestly, very well said. I hope a lot of people learned from today's episode of The Untold. But with that being said, Lujain, it's the end of today's episode. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye and see you next time.